the attitude of being English and observing the French, and just the European cultural tendencies of looking at Germans or Italians from a cultural conditioned attitude. These are, we all have our certain cultural biases that are part of the cultural conditioning process. But then we can see this, observing. There's nothing, we're not judging it, just recognizing. Cultural biases, like class identities and so forth, are like this. So that's Puto, seeing the Dhamma, knowing Dhamma. Then the Vicikicca is doubt, and that is through attachment to thinking, trying to figure it all out through analysis, through thought, through definition. You end up with Vicikicca every time. Start thinking about, am I really free from defilements and doubting, or can I ever become enlightened? Is doubt. Who am I? Is doubt. Am I a Sotapanna yet? Is doubt. Is this the right path? Is Ajahn Sumedho right, or is he just rubbish and nonsense? Doubt. Or doubt about yourself. I don't think I can do it. You can project on me thinking Ajahn Sumedho, he's got all these baramis, and that's what I used to do to Luang Por Chah. Ajahn Chah, he doesn't have the problems I do. He's probably born much more in a pure state than I was. And so because you tend to exalt the teacher. Then when you get to know Luang Por Chah, he talks about his training, early life, and difficulties, and it's very human, You realize there's not that much difference in any of us. It's not that we start out, I start my life out in some kind of more purified form than you. That's, if you think that's your creation. That's not Dhamma. So this is not to assume, that you're somebody, or seeing yourself as somebody who can't do it. Sometimes that's the way it feels. We feel despair in our practice, or hopelessness, or things like this. But this is the awareness of these mental states. That's developing the path. So even when you're feeling despair about your practice, the path is always present, just through awakening to that sense of me being disappointed or despairing is like this. So you see what I mean? This puto tammo relationship. It's a different perception, way of looking, a different mode of looking at reality, where the personal, the sakyaditi level, silabhata paramasa, the analytical level, the thinking level, is culturally fraught, with modern scientific biases, assumptions, religious assumptions, just being brought up in a Christian, there's all kinds of Christian assumptions I see in my Silabhata Paramasa. Because I was brought up in a Christian family. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just noticing what the cultural biases or assumptions I make when I start thinking and judging, making judgments, moral judgments or value judgments. It's, you can see the bias that you've acquired through your religious, or maybe atheists. Maybe you're brought up as atheists or whatever. But it is silabhata paramasa, sakyaditi vicikicca. So then the awareness is not cultural, not even Buddhist. It's Dhamma. It's the way it is, you know. And the word Dhamma is just a convenient term to point. It's not something you've got to get. It's just it's a word to remind yourself. Puto Tammo Sangho. The third refuge is you. Not on a Sakyaditi level of me, I'm a senior monk here. It's not that kind of Sangha. It's it's the four pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. That sounds a bit funny too, doesn't it? But that means the knowing, isn't it? The refuge in the human individual, human community, knowing the Dhamma. And it's no longer just our Sangha as opposed to somebody else's, or Tibetan Sangha or Theravada Sangha or that kind of stuff. Then you get into Silabhata Paramasa again. But if you just recognize Sangha, this is Sangha that we're taking refuge in. Not in my being a monk, but in awareness. The 4 pairs, the 8 kinds, the Sotapanna, Magga and Phala, the path and fruit of the path. So there's 2, the 4 pairs, 8 kinds. This is the Theravada style of reflection. But this is not to be taken on Sakyaditi level. Not seeing myself as, what am I, a Sotapanna Magga or a Sotapanna Phala or a Sakadakami Magga or a Sakadami? I've known monks to do this. Where are you? Are you Magga or Phala or? and it just reeks of Sakyaditi, doesn't it? It's taking the words and then applying it to the ego. The ego grasps the terminologies. But the Sangha isn't Sakyaditi. So we're not taking refuge in Sakayaditi, but in awareness. And so these 3 refuges they're conventions, but they're meant to be helpful to us for awareness, not positions, not definitions, not doctrines that we cling to. So this is what I'm hoping to get across in the reflection, is what Bhutto really is. It's real. It's not some, the word itself is a word, so it has its limitation as a word, but it's pointing at the wake-up awareness. Sakyaditi, translated into ordinary English terms, usually the ego or sense of self. Well, and I'm Ajahn Sumedho and so forth, the sense of self. But Bhutto is my refuge, not being this person. So then relating Bhutto is a reflective ability to know self as anicca dukkha anatta. Because myself, my personality changes according to conditions. That's the way it is. Sakyaditi is nothing permanent in it. You can't get to any kind of core essence to one's personality that you can really depend on. It changes. It goes up and down according to people praise or blame or success or failure or feeling healthy or sick or whatever. There's so many conditions affecting how I personally feel in the present. So changeable. But the awareness is a constant awareness of change rather than being just a helpless victim of conditioned phenomena. Because otherwise, that's what it feels like. The suffering, the dukkha of life is just feeling kind of helpless in this vortex of changing conditions, where how much control do you have over it, over your life? It seems like one is kind of caught in this samsaric thing, and it just, how much can you control it or protect yourself from the fear that it generates? So one can live in total neurotic sakyaditi patterns, miserable life, even in the midst of wealth and abundance. So the Puto then is a refuge rather than sakyaditi. Then we can see sakyaditi. I know it. So when sakyaditi starts moaning and groaning about things, there's knowing it. So Lung Pa Sumedho's not feeling very good today and grumbling about Puto. There's knowing. It's like this. Not to make a problem about saying I shouldn't grumble, I shouldn't complain, because then it becomes, then I feel guilty, and the sakyaditi just continues, gets more complicated. But it's awareness of it, and no longer judging it, saying believing it, or feeling guilty about complaining, but recognizing it is terms of Dhamma, conditioned phenomena, rising, ceasing. And so that's the path. When we talk about the Magga, or the Majjhima Patipata, this is the path. It's always here and now, very direct, not something that you've got to find, it's recognizing it.